Spectre Vision Radio.
And so, we sort of like look ahead and the driver turned the lights on and there was a pack of deer running in front of the car. They're coming from one side of the woods out to the other. But at the moment that we turned those lights on, there was a Bigfoot in front of us.
What?
Yep. And she was on all fours as soon as the lights came on, and it made her raise up on 2 feet. And she was, 6 feet in front of our car. And we were in a tiny little late 80s subcompact, like little roller skate. You know what I mean? Just some tiny little Geo Metro or something like that. I don't remember. She kept going. She kept chasing the deer. She didn't stop for long. She like kind of looked at us and we were silent and we were just terrified. It was such a real experience.
They claim that our eyes will just be created a slightly different from what they are. When we talk, we see things that are not normal.
Welcome to Strange Familiars. Allison.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm okay. It's daylight.
I know, we usually record at night. Recording during the day here. On tonight's show, I'm going to be talking to Adrienne, who has this really interesting story that sort of has all these synchronicities with the very earliest episodes of Strange Familiars, like the first 3 episodes. Very, very interesting. And
you'll have to refresh my memory. I remember the first episode, but I do not know what the second and third episodes
the first 3 were all Toad Road. The first 3 were all, it was basically my first book in audio form, essentially, So they all had to do with...
they're all local things.
Yeah, so the first episode was mostly about Hex Hollow.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
The second episode was the graveyard in the city.
Oh, East Prospect Cemetery.
Yeah. And then the third episode was like Toad Road proper, but it was all tied together.
Oh, okay.
Really, really interesting stories coming up that tie in ways to the very, very earliest episodes of Strange Familiars. It's pretty incredible. I'm excited to get these stories out there. Before we get to that, though, I do want to announce I have 2 new albums. These are my first new albums, full albums in many years. I've been doing songs here and there, but these are the first full albums I've done, I think, since the pandemic. Was before the pandemic was the last full album I've done. So these are 2 new full albums. They are called The Sacred Heart of Hum and The Secret Heart of Hum, kind of sister albums, I suppose. And they are both available on my Bandcamp. It's stonebreath.bandcamp.com. Really excited, working my way back into music, and hopefully I will get the courage up to play some live events again at some point. Things have changed, after that MS attack with my hands and everything, but I can still make music. It's just different than it was before. But I'm excited. These 2 albums are kind of a combination of the stuff I was doing with Wilderness Geist, the kind of dark ambient stuff, with more of my, normal kind of folk songy things. Super happy with them. Again, it's The Secret Heart of Hum and The Sacred Heart of Hum, and they are available at stonebreath.bandcamp.com. There's also copies in our Etsy shop, if you want to get them there. On Bandcamp, you can get digital download or a CD, and if you buy the CD on Bandcamp, it comes with the digital download. But if you just want a CD, Etsy has them too, so you can get them on Etsy. Thanks everybody who's gotten one so far. It's going very well. All right, without further ado, let's get to Adrienne's stories. I'd like to welcome Adrienne to Strange Familiars. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to get your stories. Now, you said this in a way, you were reminded of your story from, was it the first episode of Strange Familiars?
It was the first episode. So I feel like I stumbled upon your podcast maybe sometime in the past couple of years, and I didn't start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I'd listened sporadically to a few of the newer episodes, and I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, I just decided, I wonder how that started. And so I went back to the first episode. And I was floored. I started questioning reality a little bit when I listened to it because of the details. Like, you'll understand when you hear.
Okay.
And anybody who's familiar with your first episode or any subsequent episodes that related, which I assume some of your listeners are, I'm so confused about what this means.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm very excited. This is very exciting. Okay. So walk us into your story.
Just the coincidence, the math is vast and the world is huge, but it's low, it's one of those things. Okay. I will start just with my story. I was 15 or 16. So this was a long time ago. We're talking 1998, maybe, or 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just moved to that area. We're talking seacoast of like New Hampshire, border of Massachusetts. I had just moved to that area when I was 15. And that's like right around the time that my peers were getting like their licenses and cars and stuff and becoming mobile. So it was, like I said, spring, I think, of 98 or 99. And they decided that it was time to take the new kid to see the glowing house. It's just one of those local legend things. There's like a story that you tell and it's scary, etc. Mm-hmm. We started with the gates of hell in Maudsley Park in Newburyport, Massachusetts, which is the next town over from Amesbury, which is around school. Yeah, and it's just like a single gate. It's referred to as the gates, plural, of hell.
I knew just through legend tripping and folklore and stuff, there were other, throughout the United States.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. But for this to just be in sequence with everything else. Mm-hmm. And the gates of hell isn't the most unusual part. It's the second part that's the most unusual.
Okay. But it's worth shooting.
So, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So the thing that you're supposed to do, the local lore, is you go there at midnight and you pass through the gates of hell exactly at midnight. And then, all hell is supposed to break loose, I suppose. Right. So it's this little like super old cemetery in a state park. And so, like the very thin gravestones where you can barely tell what's left on them, sort of. And there's this very old stone wall. And then there's like a wrought iron sort of gate. And it's chained shut, but loosely, like big chains and a big padlock. So you just kind of step over those chains. And so it was a car full of like 4 or 5 teenage girls. We just scared the daylights out of ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we were having a sleepover, whoever's house we were at was unsupervised. I feel like, we were out late and we scared ourselves. And then they were like, okay, so it's time to take her to see the glowing house. And I get scared really easy. So I was in a place, we certainly were all scared, but there's no way our imaginations imagined all of these very specific things. I had a bunch of witnesses. So we're heading from Newburyport to Southampton, New Hampshire, and we have to go through Amesbury. So these events happen in 3 separate sequential towns. And we're at the stoplight, and there's a red light. It's after midnight, and there's a little SUV, like a Jeep Cherokee, that passes in front of us because they had the green from right to left. So the driver's side is facing us. As they're driving by, it was like this really super creepy, like scary movie. Very slowly, they like turned their head, the driver, as they're driving by. There's nobody else in the vehicle. And the driver, I say it because it wasn't human. This sounds crazy, but its skin was so pale that it was almost white, and it looked like maybe there was a sock pulled over its face, except it wasn't, because there wasn't a nose. Like the features were missing. Oh. Like they were like, so yeah, you know what I'm referring to. Yeah. And we just looked at each other like, what is happening? Like, it was so outside of the norm. We figured it was a ghost or some sort of apparition maybe that we saw. And we were, terrified, but it was very outside of the realm of normalcy, of reality, of the things that we agree upon, So off we went. The light turned green. We were very scared. We didn't say much, but we looked at each other, and we continued on the next few miles to Southampton. Southampton has a population of like 800 people. It's all woods, So the glowing house, I tried to ask people recently if they remembered the story so I could tell you, but nobody remembers. It was a long time ago. There's a story that you tell that goes with it. And This house is at the end of like a T intersection, and there is a very big sort of spotlight street light that's shining on it, but you don't tell the person that you're tricking that. And you sort of pass by it as you're telling the story, but they don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's behind you when it's time to scare them. And so I don't know how far down we got down the street. I remember in the story, you tell your victim that you're a mile past it.
Okay.
I don't think we were quite that far. And it's a very narrow road in the woods. And when you get as far as you're going to go and you get to the place in your story where you want to shut the engine off, shut the lights off, and turn around and say, and then there it is. You know, you sort of like point behind you and it looks like it's glowing and the road that you're on has no lights at all. And so that's the trick.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that. We got to that point and we're all looking behind us. It's springtime, so our windows are down and we hear this rustling. And so, we sort of like look ahead and the driver turned the lights on and there was a pack of deer running in front of the car. They're coming from one side of the woods out to the other. But at the moment that we turned those lights on, there was a Bigfoot in front of us.
What?
And she was on all fours as soon as the lights came on and it made her raise up on 2 feet. And she was, 6 feet in front of our car. And we were in a tiny little late 80s subcompact, like little roller skate. You know what I mean? Just some tiny little Geo Metro or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe since then I've had some scary experiences. But at that point, that was the scariest thing I'd ever been involved in. She kept going. She kept chasing the deer. She didn't stop for long. She like kind of looked at us and we were silent and terrified. One of us peed our pants. It wasn't me. I don't remember who it was. But, we were
you don't have to out them on the show. It's okay.
Yeah, we were just terrified. It was such a real experience.
Wow. And you say her, so it was visually female.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And that's probably why I assume that we didn't get hurt. I think that females are less aggressive. It was a car full of female humans, and it's interesting because, we all just sort of looked at each other and said, let's go home. It's time to go home.
Oh, yeah.
And we didn't really discuss it after that. I was listening to a different episode, a recent one that you had up today, and somebody was referencing, the sort of just falling asleep, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't just fall asleep in that moment, but it was so outside of accepted reality that we just sort of like swept it under the rug or something. It was an unspoken agreement,
Not unusual. Unusual, really. You get that sometimes. So you just never spoke of it again?
No, and I didn't even, I've moved around a lot. So like I have lots of different circles of people and, throughout my life, it's a story that I've told every once in a while. And I was talking to somebody about it, like through Facebook Messenger a few years ago, and they didn't believe me. And I said, I'll post about it and I'll see if anybody chimes in that was there. And a couple people did,
wow.
and I messaged my friend that was there a few weeks before I messaged you. I don't know, just to confirm reality, like, hey, that really happened, right? And she was like, oh yeah, absolutely. It feels like embarrassing to tell people because Bigfoot has such a stigma.
Sure.
And even though I'm a lifelong experiencer of like ghosts or, a number of different paranormal things, Bigfoot just seems more outlandish. I feel like fewer people have seen Bigfoot than I've seen ghosts, probably. Mm-hmm. It's a less experienced phenomenon. And so it's definitely something that there's like a lot of like shame or trepidation around sharing. But recently I started asking people, hey, have you ever seen Bigfoot? And even though most of the people that I've asked have had said no, a lot of them knew people that were really into it or people who had an experience and just couldn't be swayed.
There has been a major sea change. And I think it's post-podcast, and I'm not saying Strange Familiars, but Sasquatch Chronicles and podcasts like that have had a major effect on making it more okay, I think, to talk about this.
Well, and what I really like about what I've heard on your podcast so far is that, and I mean, this is just me buying into the stigma, of course, but like so many people that have been witnesses to it that aren't normally into woo-woo stuff or aren't normally into things that are out there. People just sound like very regular people, just like everyday people.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty into weird stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily consider myself to be like a normal, regular, everyday person in that sense. But at the same time, it's funny, even having that experience, almost 30 years ago, I didn't become a Bigfoot fanatic. Like it wasn't something that you would think that it would, since I experienced it, but like it didn't become a special interest for me. I just know that that's a real thing that exists, and it was scary, and didn't feel magical or anything. It just felt like a scary wild animal. It was very real. It didn't feel like a spooky thing. It felt like a physical thing.
Interesting.
Yep.
So how did you identify as female? Did it have breasts?
It did.
Okay.
It did. Not necessarily like as modern human like, you know what I mean? But like it was obvious that there were breasts, and she also like a little less hair than since then that I've heard like described. Like there wasn't as much hair on her chest. She didn't have like a big like ruff around the neck. She just looked a little more feminine, Yep.
About how tall would you, and I know this is a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was 16 sitting in a tiny car, but like I would say 6-7 feet tall, probably. I mean, not like huge, but well, I guess bigger than maybe 7 feet, maybe.
And it was
not.
She was on all fours at first, and then stood up, or all fours the whole time.
She didn't move like you would think on all fours. Like it was much. I don't know. It's hard for me to like envision what it takes. Not that I'm an expert on learning about these things, but like for someone to move that quickly and gracefully on all fours, and as well as be able to be bipedal. Do you know what I mean? Like, that. Yeah. It almost like lizard-like on all fours, the way that she moved.
Interesting.
Like, yeah.
I've heard people describe it as spider-like.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. But like different than you would assume. Moving in a quick way that my eyes weren't familiar with, tracking limbs moving in that pattern.
Wow. And then it stood up.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I watched her run away. Like I watched the lights came on, and that was like what made her stand up. So we weren't like really privy to like her coming in, it was just like, and timing just happened to be that she was basically directly in front of the vehicle.
Wow. And then
I don't think there've been a lot of, I tried to look it up recently. I haven't seen specifically a lot of sightings in that area or anything. I talked to my dad about it last year, and he said, "Oh, is that why I've seen all those Bigfoot cutouts in that area?" And so in that, like, but I just think people like to put those.
Yeah, I do. Bigfoot is having a sort of a pop culture moment right now. And from the time I started the podcast till now, I see them everywhere now. Like it used to be, if I saw a Bigfoot cutout like that, I'd actually knock on the door and, ask them if they had something, they knew anything about Bigfoot. But now there's so many that I think it's just a pop culture thing.
People are into it. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I tried to look it up, and I didn't see any specific like reported sightings in that area. I mean, we did have a discussion that night about it, and we definitely tried to reason. Like we tried to reason that it wasn't Bigfoot, like it was a prank or something. Like somebody must have known that we were going to be there, and then there was a person in a suit, and then we realized that's not possible. The way that it happened and the way that she moved, and but we really tried to tell ourselves that that's not what it was, because it just seemed too far fetched.
Yeah, and the fact that the deer came out, it's too perfect, for someone in a suit to be.
That would be really hard to orchestrate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. So have you seen the Patty film, the famous Patterson-Gimlin film from the 60s with the...
No, I told you I haven't really even I just had the experience,
All right. Let me see if I can quickly find an image of that, and I'll put it in the chat for you. So I'm just curious if it looked anything like this. It's the most famous Bigfoot, and is supposed to be a female.
Oh, do you mean that short piece of film of one walking from a distance?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, yes. No, I have seen that.
Okay, did it look anything like that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody's accounts all look kind of similar. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Had I seen that before I saw her? Maybe. I don't think so, though, because we didn't have internet access the same way that we do now.
Yeah,
Maybe there was a TV show on that showed it or something.
Right, but
probably not.
You would have to be sort of a Bigfoot fanatic back then to be super familiar.
I've been into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I don't think I probably saw that until afterwards.
Yeah, but did what you see kind of look like that is the question.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. That's the best piece of evidence that people have, right?
They say, just my own theories and so forth. I started out as a hardcore defender of that film, and now I've moved into the I'm not sure. So, but that it means very little. It's a very interesting piece of footage, no matter what. And a lot of people have said that looks like what they've seen. So there can't be that many people in costumes out there. Whether that turns out to be real or not has no bearing on your story, and the hundreds of others that people have said.
Yeah.
Like
for sure. I just never thought about it too much until recently. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
This is a product of me thinking about it a little bit. And I know it was real because I saw it. When I think about why we don't have a lot of evidence of them, my best educated enough as I can be, guess on that would be that they're really intelligent and they know that we're dangerous. And that whoever has, survived has learned probably for a long, long time. Humans have been here for millions of years, but, closer to our current form, at least hundreds of thousands. I just think that they are probably highly intelligent and have learned to avoid us. Maybe they have some sort of way to dispose of their remains appropriately so we can't find them, or we wouldn't know how to. I don't know. I'd imagine that we're pretty dangerous, and it's known.
Mm-hmm. Everyone. And again, I never blame anybody, especially in a sighting like yours, for saying, no, this is just like another animal, because what you saw was that. But my personal theory is there's something very strange about them. They don't really obey the laws of other animals. They don't always act like them, and there's strange things around them. And I would just say that I wouldn't discount the rest of your night leading up to that, just me personally.
Well, so I've been an experiencer of all sorts of paranormal things my entire life. So that would line up with that. Mm-hmm. And the synchronicity with that being with the no face.
Yeah.
Like with the story from Toad Road, or the stories from Toad Road from so long. And then the craziest part, or the crazier part about that, is that a few years ago, I was in Harrisburg. My dentist was in York. I am pretty sure at one point I experienced the glowing fields phenomenon down there, because I got home and I started talking about it. And they were like, oh, that was probably just like a meteor from a meteor shot. And I said, no, that's not what I saw.
Wow.
Like at all. And so what another interesting synchronicity.
Yeah. For sure. Do you remember where that was? Where you saw the glowing field?
I don't, because I was only there for a couple of years and I just used my GPS to get wherever I needed to go.
Yeah.
So I wasn't super familiar, but I lived in Harrisburg and I went to York all the time.
That's so neat. That's one thing I've seen a field lit up, but it looked like it was, well, I should ask you, what did yours look like?
It was like a whitish bluish. It was definitely like a bluish color, and it looked like it was sort of like glowing embers of blue coming from behind. Sort of, there was vegetation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't see exactly the source of it, but it was eerie and blue, and it seemed unnatural, but not necessarily man-made. But I could just be like imprinting my own ideas onto what I saw.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say. I remember pulling over because it didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And I just tried to stare and process and understand what I was seeing, because I hadn't really seen anything like that before. Huh. That's about all I remember. It looked, the light coming off of the field almost looked like wavy.
Was it, I assume it was nighttime?
It was nighttime.
Was it late night or just, do you remember?
Like 11 probably.
Okay. So I saw a field, and I say it looked lit up. It didn't look like it was glowing. It looked lit up, but you couldn't see the light source. It looked like there were stadium lights above it or something. I couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
But yours sounds more like what people describe. The field's actually glowing,
Yep. And I heard that in one of those earlier episodes as well. And I think it was the same day, that I heard that first episode. I was like, okay, all right, what is this?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, and it's the great thing. This was one of my great joys of the podcast is every time someone hears something, I swear, and it can be the weirdest thing. People will say, "Oh no, that happened to me." And I'll get somebody will write in or call in and say, look, that happened to me. And they will describe if not the exact same, a very, very similar event or sighting. So I'm not at all surprised. This is so interesting though.
What are your thoughts on the no face guy? Like what is that?
It's very interesting that he was all white, for sure, because that's another thing we get with these sort of white entities around these sort of legend trippy kind of places,
Mm-hmm.
Toad Road had the one in the story with the guy sitting there that was super white. And then the other place we go to, we call Site 7, had stories of like legends back to the 70s of people with albinism back there that would chase people. But oddly enough, everything that people have seen there as far as, creatures and other things has either been gray or white. Including, I saw someone back there. I say someone, I don't know what it was. It was a very warm day in the mid 80s, and someone looked to be wearing a sort of a heather gray hooded sweatshirt with some kind of covering over their face or something in very thick brush, and just took off running. So, I have a sort of a special interest in these sort of white beings, and sometimes they are people. I mean, there's a big connection between women and white spirits and Bigfoot. I've written a whole chapter on that in my one book about it. There's a huge connection between them. I'm not saying what you saw was a woman, but I'm just saying there are these white sort of entities are popping up around these sort of legend trippy kind of areas.
I mean, he had to have been a person of sorts. He was driving a vehicle.
Right.
But he didn't have any features. I have no explanation. I don't ever assume that my interpretations of my experiences are correct.
Mm-hmm.
I just know I'm having the experiences.
Yeah. No, I think that's giving that space, is important, I think. Also, I know what I saw is equally important,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I had witnesses. Like there were other people with me, several of them. What a night.
Yeah, that's what I said. The sequence of events that ends with a Bigfoot sighting, to me, I just would not discount all of that. It just seems like part of the whole mix, It
does.
Yeah.
And to have it be, I mean, obviously those things had been happening on Toad Road for a while. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's only recent, but to have it be so far away.
Right.
I mean, all the way in Massachusetts, that's wild.
Yeah. And there's another gate to hell, and you were actually there that night. That's like all these little details. Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, we all of us walked through the gates of hell during that midnight minute. We made sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating. If people are wondering what Adrian's referencing with the man with no face, so there were two things in that, and I forget if they were both in the first episode. They were in the first 3 episodes. It was the being that Lon saw actually in Hex Hollow, who literally had no face. And then there was a sort of a ghost or something that I think though it was Darren saw it sitting on the gate. It was a chain that was the gate at the time to Toad Road. And he was like, he said he was like whiter than white kind of thing. Just like, wearing a suit, but absolutely pale white. So very, very interesting. Do you feel like talking about some of these other encounters you've had?
I mean, yeah, I'm open to it for sure. I guess I would like your opinion on an experience that I had when I was maybe 19. I think I was living in this sort of communal house. It was an old farmhouse in Epping, New Hampshire. So some of the activities that happened there would only happen if you were home alone, if you were the only human in the house. There was only one television, and it was like one of those old little tube TVs. This was a long time ago. And it was in like the upstairs master bedroom. If you wanted to like have a snack and watch TV, no matter who you were, that's where you had to go. So sometimes, when I'd be home alone during the day, the kids would be at school, the other adults would be at work. I'd go upstairs and have a snack, watch some TV. And when you go back downstairs, and it was a big kitchen, there were a lot of cabinets, top and bottom in the kitchen, many, 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 lots of storage and refrigerator and freezer. And then there's a door to the outside. You'd come downstairs and every single door would be open, top and bottom, every single cabinet, refrigerator, freezer, door to the outside, just wide open. And so you're like, oh, okay. And you get your snack and you shut all those doors again and you go upstairs, and until somebody else comes home, it'll repeat that. Like if you go upstairs again.
Oh, really?
Like there's like, there's a rule. We eventually had to get like child safety, and like close everything shut. There was another night there where a guest in the house was sort of saying goodnight to me in front of my bedroom door, and maybe 15 feet away, maybe a little bit more, down this hallway next to like a large door opening, we saw like a 2D 3-foot by 3-foot face, just this apparition, this glowing face. Wow. And it was dark, but it was glowing. It was like white and glowing. It didn't necessarily seem evil, but it didn't seem good. Like it wasn't there to spread joy. It was sort of like, go in your room and shut your door and don't think about that. And then I ended up moving out of that house. We were having like a sort of potluck, a get together, and I had witnesses to this. People watched it. I was attempting to walk down the stairs and I didn't slip because I was pushed out. I was pushed out like several feet and then dropped down the stairs. And I wasn't injured, thank goodness. But I was like, okay, it's time to move. I moved a few days later. That's, so do you think that's like ghosty activity? Do you think that's poltergeisty activity? Like, what do you think that classifies as?
I mean, it feels poltergeist, but where does one draw the line? Yeah, they may in some form be the same thing or aspects of the same thing. But yeah, I've heard the cabinet opening thing, not to the extent that you're talking about where every time you go up and come down they're open, but I've heard it before where people be like, yeah, just randomly, sometimes I go downstairs and all my cabinets are open. And that seems very poltergeisty. But when you're getting these other manifestations, and again, this stuff, it all keeps, that's one of the things that made me look into the weirder side of Bigfoot is because these other things are popping up around Bigfoot. And this stuff all keeps strange company, right? Whether it's Bigfoot or poltergeist or ghosts or alien, whatever, UFOs, however you want to say it. The other stuff seems to be attracted to it in some way. Is it all the same thing or is it all come together?
Well,
I don't know.
People seem to like be lifelong experiencers. Yes. And what is that? Is it available to everybody? But if you just really don't believe it, then it's not that you're not physically seeing it, but is your brain just not allowing you to recognize that that's happening? Like, do you think that's possible?
I absolutely think that's part of it. And I think those are the people, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, that have the most difficulty. For instance, I've talked to several hunters who have seen Bigfoot, and not extreme encounters, not like they're screaming at him and, chasing him or anything like that. Literally kind of like yours, like crossing the road in front of them. But it was so far outside of their realm of what was possible that it has scared them out of the woods. They said, I will never go hunting again. I don't ever even want to go to the woods. So I think there are those people who just like, no. And then when it does break through, I think those are the people that sometimes have the hardest times with it. And they have these like really bad reactions to it. I think, and again, just my current theory, I think it's available to everyone, but I think it's like art or music. And I think some people have it where it just comes naturally. And they can it's just there for them. And other people, it's available to them, but they're going to have to sort of practice. And by that, I mean, you got to go to these haunted places and you're going to have to.
They have to work for it.
And you might have to go there many, many times before something happens, Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've just been flooded with experiences my whole life, starting really young. Yeah. Like tiny. It's always been there. Like, I also live in New England. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of very old homes here.
Yeah,
so there's
love New England.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. But there's definitely a lot more. Like when I lived out west, it wasn't as busy. I didn't have as many experiences, you know.
Yeah.
My grandma, when I was little, she lived in an 1812 farmhouse in Massachusetts. And when she moved in there, I think when I was 7, and there was a little girl across the street, and she didn't speak English, but we were 7, so it didn't matter. We spoke child, you know, we were playing. Yeah. We're having a sleepover, and there was a TV, you know, but there's a TV in the downstairs bedroom. And so that's where we were having our sleepover. And it was next to the kitchen, of course, for the snacks. And this little girl started freaking out, you know, barely speaking English. You know, those little, this is like a tiny home. Those little old wooden doors with the wrought iron latches, you know? So like the door was just barely latched shut. And she's crying and shaking and pointing into the living room. And I'm like, oh, do you want me to open the door? And she's like, no, you know, she's like freaking out. And we hear it start to rattle, you know how like, yeah. So we run upstairs. My grandmother's upstairs and we're like freaking out. And she's like, oh, I guess I should tell you, like we meaning the grownups, you know, the adults had decided not to like scare you. So we didn't tell you about what's going on, but now is probably a good time. And if you want, you could sleep upstairs, you know? So she came downstairs with us and she opened the door. You know, she asked us permission, you know, we consented to the scary, but she said she just had some questions about what she could feel in the room, basically. And she asked my friend where she was, where the ghost was. And but they had a grand piano in the room. And she said she's, you know, right behind the piano, which is exactly where my grandmother had felt her. So the stories that we were not being told. My grandmother had 3 children, 1 girl and 2 boys, and she had these oil paintings, like large framed oil paintings up on the wall, all in a row. The daughter's in the middle, the 2 sons are on the outside. And this would only happen if you were in the room. You needed to be able to witness it. It was a show. And you didn't have to be alone. You could have friends with you. But apparently she didn't like men on the walls, this ghost, because she'd pull just the boys' pictures out far enough to break the glass and drop them.
Wow.
Simultaneously in front of you.
Oh, simultaneously. So, wow.
Yep. So my grandmother replaced the glass in them like 3 or 4 times where she was like, she's going to put them back on the walls without glass, you know? And so my grandmother said she had like this feeling that the woman's name was Flo. That was just like, you know, a feeling she was getting. Eventually, she just told this woman that she was dead and that it was her house now and she needed to leave. And she was persistent enough. It felt like it worked. You know, it was really only an experience we had when she first moved in. And this was before this stuff was cataloged on the internet. So she had to go down to some city hall or town hall somewhere to look it up. But she looked up the original owners of the house and the woman's name was Florence.
Oh, wow.
Isn't
that cool? Yeah. So after she asked her to move on, did that help?
Just a few times.
Yeah.
There was some confusion and she was firm but gentle, like not mean, but like very firm in her energy and firm in like, this is my house now and it's not appropriate for you to be here and it's okay for you to move on. I'm going to take good care of the home. It's amazing how much speaking to them like sentient beings like actually helps. So there's a house spirit in my house here where I live. And I live with the homeowner, my roommate, we're good friends. And he bought the house, I think from the first owner, I'm pretty sure. I think he's the second owner. And I didn't know this until I asked recently, but they died in the house. And he uses it for an office, the office in the back room. It feels really good in there. It's like very relaxing. It feels really nice. And one day I was stepping back and forth between just like the threshold of the room, like stepping out into the hall. And then I was like, it felt different, like in the room than in the hallway. And I yelled down to him, did somebody die in this house? Did they die in this room? And he said, yeah, he died in that room.
Wow.
So it was just, I mean, great energy. I don't mind this house spirit, but he recently refinished a bunch of the house. And so it was pulled apart, contractors, all kinds of stuff. And the house was a mess. It just took longer than expected because that's the way that works.
It always does.
Yeah. And we've got a bunch of animals. It was chaotic. It was the energy was disruptive. It was hard. And it wasn't happening to me. Both so the bathroom light would flicker when he was in there trying to do something. Only one of them. And like very specifically, just him, just that light. the alarm in the stove would go off all the time when he was in the kitchen. And we just got a brand new refrigerator, and it was freezing only his food. It didn't matter where he moved the food to in the fridge. Right. It was like only freezing his food.
Wow. Interesting.
And it's a brand new fridge. And like, we stopped all of this. And he was like, you're like my expert on this. What do I do? And I was like, talk to him. Mm-hmm. Talk to your house spirit. Let them know what's happening with the house. Like, keep them in the loop. You have to say it out loud. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not going to hear your thoughts. I don't know why, but that's nice, right? We get some privacy. Say it out loud, though, and explain what you're doing. Explain what your plans for the house are, how much you love the house. Explain how much you want to take care of it, and it'll be back together soon, and apologize and ask for grace. And he did, and it stopped.
I get contacted a few times a year, usually. And it's usually by moms who are upset. Something's in my house and it's upsetting me. And someone gave me this advice, and Brother Richard has backed it up, and several other people since then have backed it up. It's amazing how well it works. And it's like you said, firmly but politely. You don't want to go out, not like these guys on TV or trying to get in a fight with the spirit. You don't want to go at it like that. Firmly and politely, and you tell it, hey, you're scaring my kid. We don't like this. Can you move along? Can you please stop? And you'd be amazed how often it works. They will email you back and say, it worked. And I said, it's interesting that you said it took a few times for your grandmother, because I always say, hey, it might happen again. Like, don't get disheartened if it happens again. Just repeat. Just say it again, So
I think most of the time lingering energies and spirits are confused. Mm-hmm. I think it's rare that they're really malevolent. Mm-hmm. If you do have something malevolent, you might need some help, Yeah. But I think most of the time it's just confusion.
Yeah. Interesting. I came upon that idea from doing the podcast. Like I said, somebody shared it with me and then a few other people. Do you know if your grandmother, like, was she doing it intuitively, or had someone told her to sort of tell the spirit?
So, this is where I sound less like a regular person. My grandmother says that our family, like our Scottish side, has what she calls like the gift.
Okay.
Just we're like extra open to stuff.
It can run in families.
I just think like in intuition,
which again makes me again think more like art or something. You know what I mean? Like art runs in my family. It's like it just makes me think kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that I've always sort of felt about it is like, okay, so unless you have a disability that prevents you from like running a marathon, right? Like, we can all kind of run the marathon, but some of us are born just naturally more athletic.
Right.
Exactly. Like not me, but I can still run, still run the marathon. So I was just born with this sensitive muscle, like mm-hmm. extra strengthened. Mm-hmm. Can I strengthen it more? Sure. Do I want to? Probably not,
Yeah.
But I think it's just like I was born naturally better at that, but I do think that everyone has access to it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's important, because I think there's an idea sometimes with, certain psychics and so forth that they have these special powers that, but it's just there, and it's there for all of us. But again,
no, that's just human stuff. That's just being more fully human. We all have access.
Yeah. And I
think that like the lifestyle that we live, like we're just really disconnected. I think that,
sure.
I guess like, what can I use as an example? Okay. So counting change, mm-hmm. right? None of the cashiers know how to count change anymore. And I'm not saying that as a boomer to be mad at them, right? But it's because they're not using that.
Right.
Whatever parts of your brain or, your body that you're not using, you're losing. So if we're not using that spiritual connectivity anymore, then a lot of us aren't naturally going to know how to access it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And we've lived in, our society has celebrated like, the Newtonian physics and, that side of the science so much that it becomes, the scientism, there's this religion almost. And look, it works, right? Gravity is real. You can repeat these experiments in the lab. Physics is real. Biology is real. All of this stuff is real. So it's easy to sort of focus on that. It's worked for hundreds of years. We've developed great medicines and all this wonderful technology based on it.
But that doesn't mean there isn't a reality outside of the time-space reality.
Exactly.
I'm actually when I say firm believer, my belief system is fluid.
Mhm.
It can be changed with new data all the time. I'm just looking through the lens that, I know now. But currently, I'm a pretty firm believer in this whole new quantum physics sort of theory of consciousness being fundamental
Mhm.
and time-space reality being sort of something actually within that rather than the other way around.
Mhm.
And I think that regardless of that completely being true or not, I think that it's silly of us to think that we can measure things out that exist outside of time-space reality with tools that only exist within it.
Right.
Like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I don't blame people for sort of getting locked into it. It works, right? It works, but it also kind of, I don't want to say shuts you off, but you get comfortable in that world. And like you said, you don't use that part of your brain or consciousness. I don't even think it's in the brain. I think you're right. I think it's consciousness is somewhere else. And you don't use that, and it to some extent atrophies,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like the if you think about the terms like closed-minded and open-minded, I think it's just really a matter of experience. People could describe me as being open-minded, but I think that that's simply because I've experienced a lot of things that seem to exist outside of accepted reality. If I hadn't experienced those, would I believe in as much? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, honestly, probably not.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really a matter of like what we're experiencing individually, shaping what we believe in,
So going through life, you're having these different experiences. Are they all mostly in the realm of, quote unquote ghosts, or
No.
you've seen UFOs?
So I haven't personally seen, I mean, probably, I have so many things. I made a list here because I wanted to have some info to pull from, but like both of my parents have seen UFOs. My mother, it was in Peabody, Massachusetts in probably 1960 or the early 60s. And she and her sister were walking home from elementary school and they saw a flying saucer stuck in a tree.
Oh.
And yeah, both of them. And they went home and they told their parents, and this is the 60s. So they were, beaten and sent to bed without dinner for lying. And it was in the newspaper the next day.
Oh, wow.
Because a bunch of people had seen it.
Huh.
I don't really, I mean, they were little kids, they couldn't get like the best retelling of what it actually looked like. I think it must have been like a pretty small flying saucer in a pretty large tree, but they saw something that was reported in the papers.
Oh.
My dad had more of like lights in the sky experience, but lights that back in the 80s that were moving in ways that they're not supposed to, more of that kind of a thing. As far as like my other stuff, man. Okay. So, I know that you cover sort of like cryptids and familiars and stuff. Like some of my stuff might branch over into woo-woo, but I'll just explain my.
I am pro woo at this point.
Okay. So a lot of premonition stuff.
Okay.
And I know some of that can be chalked up to coincidence or whatever, but some of the stuff is just so specific and a lot of witnesses to things. So I will say with any of my psychic experiences, I don't have control over it. Like I have mediumship abilities too, but the living cannot ask me to do that. Only the dead can come to me. Like I'm just like an open conduit. I don't know how to, I'm not, you know what I mean? I feel like it's a duty if somebody comes to me in a dream with a message for their loved one, but that's not something that like I have any control over. The premonition, whether they're waking or in my dreams, also no control over it. Happens when I feel safe. And if something needs to come through, I feel like I have really interesting shared consciousness moments with my kid. And it took us a long time to figure out what that was.
Really?
But yeah, so I don't envy my child. She'll be 22 this year. But when she was a teenager and lying a lot and being really unruly, you don't want to have a mom that can tap into your brain when that's happening.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, she was like 16 or 17 and her girlfriend had a nice, safe Subaru and a license. And we were living in Colorado and they were in the car together a lot. And I started having these sort of like flashbacks, but it was flashbacks of an experience that I hadn't had. I don't know if you've been in a car accident before, but that moment of impact where you like lose time or gain time or something gets messed up, the time is no longer appropriate. So I just kept having these sort of like that moment, like that startling, jarring moment. And I kept having flashes of it 10, 20 times a day for months. And because I get premonitions, I'm thinking somebody I know is going to get into a car accident. So I am like mother hen for months with my kid, with all of her friends, with the people who live upstairs, with the people I work with. Wear your seatbelt. Please be careful. All day, every day for months. Someone's going to get into a car accident. Please be careful. And so imagine my kid is lying through remission every single time I tell her this because she knows that she's already been in the car accident.
Wow. So she didn't tell you.
Her friends, her teenage friends confessed it to me.
Wow.
Eventually, after watching me suffer for so long. The accident already happened. When did it happen? Right before you started telling everyone to be careful.
That was my next question.
My kid was having flashbacks to the accident, and we were sharing the flashback.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Huh.
Yep.
Interesting. That's very
And it
interesting.
gone the other way too. And it took a few times of like that happening in different directions for us to be like, oh, we're really connected. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anybody else that I have connected with that way. It would make sense. It would be my kid if you think about evolution and survival, you know, just a lot of like, my life feels a little more like soup, you know, like my barriers to the rest of the world are permeable, you know, things are moving around more. So it's just a matter of being like extra sensitive. Yeah.
That's very interesting. There's so many questions I want to ask, and I don't want to ask leading questions. Have you seen other spirits?
Oh yeah, I've seen a ton of them. I mean, I could write a whole book on that. I've seen dozens and dozens of them in so many different situations. Places that are known for having them, you know, places that are known for being haunted, experiences when I was alone, experiences together, like my bed frame. I picked it up from, I had a friend help me because I didn't have a vehicle to fit it. I was going to get this bed frame. You know, I was determined. It was like an hour and a half away on Marketplace. And when I went to pick it up, the woman that I got it from told me that it was her fiance's or ex-fiance's. They were breaking up. His mom had passed. And so she was getting rid of some of her stuff. And I had just loved it so much. She didn't even want to charge me for it because she thought that this woman would just like love how much I loved it. You know, I had this particular sentimental attachment to that style. And so she gave it to me. When she told me where it came from, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to sleep in this bed. You know, it's just the frame, but it's still right there. So I tried to talk to her on the way home, you know, with it like strapped at the top of the vehicle we're borrowing. And I think it was my third night sleeping in it. And I'm trying to fall asleep and I can just see her face. And I messaged the woman to get a picture of the woman and it was her, you know, to make sure that it was the same face that I was seeing.
Sure,
and
yeah.
She was like, it was coming at me. She was like angrily coming at me. And I'm more afraid of spirits that are in bodies than spirits that are not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm not that scared about this stuff for the most part, but I just sort of laughed at her and said, get out of here. Thanks for the bed. You know what I mean? Like, leave me alone. And it never happened again. You know, sometimes it's like really mild like that.
Laughter is another way to diffuse this. Humor is a great way to diffuse the negative aspects of this, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't seem like malevolent. She just seemed kind of like, get off my porch. You know what I mean? It was like that kind of energy.
Yeah.
So I was like, get out of here. I love this bed. Thank you. You know?
Strange Familiars is brought to you by our patrons. So thank you, patrons, for everything you do. Thank you for your help. We could not make Strange Familiars without you. If you want to help us make the show and get extra content at the same time, you can become a patron at Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. All of our patrons get commercial-free versions of the weekly shows, plus extra episodes every month. We do at least one. Sometimes we do more for our patrons exclusively. Our Patreon patrons also get to participate in an ongoing paranormal experiment, which has kicked off. It's really fun, really interesting stuff happening, but it's not too late to join. The way the experiment's organized is you can join at any time and become a part of that. For more information, go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. We also have an option via Apple Podcasts. You can join there. The program is called Patron of the Strange there. And our Apple Podcast subscribers also get the commercial-free shows weekly, as well as the bonus shows monthly. And very soon, we'll be adding YouTube memberships, and our YouTube members will get the extra shows monthly as well. But you can subscribe to us for free on YouTube, and that helps us out anyway. Doesn't cost a thing. If you go ahead to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe, that will help us as well. And I'd like to thank all of our patrons, no matter where they're signed up. Thank you so much.
I really enjoy the elderly, like just energetically. Like the wisdom, nice and slow, the energy. And I learned this trick from my mom, doing your grocery shopping really, really early in the morning, because the grocery store is empty, but there's a lot of older people there and they're often lonely and want to chat. So it's like a really good way to get like that social part of my life in order. And so because of that, because I'm around a lot of older people, because of my shopping habits, I tend to be around a lot of people who have lost a lot of people and are losing friends rapidly. And so when I'm in that practice, a lot of the time I'll have dreams, and the dream feels different than a regular dream. Even if I don't know who it's for, it's obvious, like, oh, this is a special thing and you should pay attention. And so a message will come through. They don't come through in words. It's more like visuals, emotions, concepts. You have to translate it into words. It's more symbolic. And then generally it's a stranger that I'll see sometime in the next few days. And I'll know that the message is for that person because I get the same feeling that I got in the dream, like when I see someone. Okay. And I've never been wrong, thank goodness, because that would be really embarrassing. I usually just like touch somebody on the shoulder as if to be like, excuse me. And then they can feel that same energy too. And then I say, I think I had a dream for you. And I always feel so awkward. And then I tell them, and then the message is given and it makes sense. And then I can go on my day.
So what are the reactions? Is there a range of reactions to this?
It's always accepting. It always makes sense to them.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't have a lot of lingering contact when it's strangers. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like it just happens and it's just what's supposed to, like, it feels dutiful. Like, oh, I'm supposed to do this thing. Okay.
Has it ever been something like very emotional or very sort of like important feeling?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And could you tell it it affected them when you told them?
Yeah, sometimes they get a hug and some tears. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But not everybody is open like that with strangers. So sometimes you can tell it makes sense, but they're not inviting me personally, and that's fine. Right. Right. Yeah. And I could go for a couple of years and have that not happen. Mm-hmm. And then I could have a stretch where it's happening all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's happening steadily or anything. Right. But it's happened throughout my life. Oftentimes it's someone I know though, even if it's maybe somebody I haven't seen lately. Mm-hmm. But it's somebody who'll come back into my life for some reason. Yeah, I've never been wrong. I've never not been able to find the person that the message is for. The dead are smart. They're directing. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what's going on. I'm just here for the ride.
Interesting. I'm trying to think, like, if that happened to me, there must be a level of trusting this intuition or this whatever's coming through, whatever you would call it.
It feels like drugs. Like it changes the way you feel. Mm-hmm. So it's just obvious.
This is just fascinating to me. Do you feel compelled to do this? Like, if I don't tell this person, I'm either failing them, and I'm failing what I'm supposed to be doing, or something's going to happen?
It doesn't feel like there's a choice, okay. But I don't feel pressured against my will either. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just feels natural. Okay. But I've never not told somebody, but I've never felt pressure not to tell. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You've never had like a really negative reaction from somebody like, I don't want to hear it kind of thing. Huh.
Nope.
Wow.
No.
That's interesting.
So I think, and I've heard this before and it makes sense because I've experienced it myself. A lot of the time when you lose somebody, the grief blocks communication. So it's hard for them. And I'm just open. Mm-hmm. That's it. I'm just sensitive and I just might be nearby.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like the dead is like, ooh, that's an open channel. We're going to use that telephone right there because the telephone to my loved one is it's, you know, off the hook.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think, like, again, whatever these things are, you know, I use the blanket term the other. I don't think time works the same way. So the fact that this might not be a friend, this might be a stranger in the grocery store, kind of doesn't matter because it's like they know you're going to run into them anyway. It's not that they know the future. It's just like time isn't the same. You know what I mean? Like it feels like there's not a time factor.
It exists within the time-space reality.
Yeah.
It's not relevant in the same way outside of that. I agree.
Yeah. I hope that if I was ever given a message like that, it feels like very like brave to do that, just to go up to a stranger. I hope I would have that braveness to do that.
I think it just comes with the openness, and it doesn't feel brave when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It almost feels like the words are spilling out of my mouth and I'm watching them.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not to say that I'm not in the driver's seat, but it's just something that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I imagine in a way, the more you do something, the easier it is. In other words, when I started the podcast, I was very like, maybe I shouldn't bring up what I do to just anybody. And now I'm just like, I'm out there like, hey, tell me all the weirdness. I know you've had something weird happen. Tell me, you know. So, you know, after a while, you don't care.
Yeah. And it's just also always been a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
This was happening to me when I was a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
It's like always been there. I will say that, like, in some ways, it always feels like the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in some ways, I'm always in awe.
Right. No, that
always like Christmas morning.
To me,
it's always like the first time I saw the fireworks. I'm always like, this is amazing. Are you kidding me right now? Like, it doesn't lose its newness or charm, but I'm also not like scared or shocked.
Right. Yeah. I think that is, for me, that is sort of the joy and the wonder and the danger of paranormal experience. So the danger isn't, I'm not worried too much about things following me home or Bigfoot attacking me in the woods or anything like that. It's so incredible. And it's such a wonder every time it happens. And
well, it's distracting.
I've clocked up a number of experiences of my own. And every time something else happens, I'm like, oh, there it is. And it's that feeling. And it's just so incredible. And
well, it feels like drugs.
Yeah.
You experience things that exist outside of accepted reality. It feels like drugs because you're like, wait a second. Things are not what they tell us they are, because they're not. Mm-hmm. And just like the realization of that little bit of reality breaking it gives you a dopamine high.
Yeah.
Like 100% it does.
It's addictive. It's addictive.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's my one warning to people about this. It's like, it can be addictive and it can take over your life. And you have to be sort of guarded about that aspect of it. Again.
Well, we did come here to be people and to do the thing that
right.
people think. So
yeah.
It's important to keep one foot in that world at least.
Exactly. Yeah. You just can't just completely ignore everything. And, you know, I always say take breaks, do stuff that's not paranormal, have interests that aren't paranormal, read books that aren't paranormal as well. You'll probably be fine. But yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I also think probably growing up in a family where it seems like the reality of spirits was a thing, you know.
On both sides of my family.
On both sides, yeah. I think that's important. And I don't think that happens so much in the West anymore, you know, where people are raised with the reality of spirits, you know.
I wasn't necessarily raised in like Western religion. Mm-hmm. So I think that like allowed things to be more open, but I wasn't raised in like an atheist or like super agnostic environment either. I feel like a lot of what my mom taught me was like very loosely sort of Hallmark Hindu theories, right? But like wrapped in Christian wrapping paper. Do you know what I mean? Like using like Western terms, but we still talked about reincarnation and karma and stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just like broad general terms incorporating a bunch of basic belief systems.
Yeah. Even the not being shut down and told like these things don't exist is huge, you know. Just be like no, they're there, and there are ways that we can interact with them, and if we have to ask them to move along, we will, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wasn't gaslit in those ways. I remember the first time that maybe not the first time. But the first time at an age where I knew what was going on, that I really consciously remember leaving my body, I was 8 and I was at my dad's house. And I woke up in the middle of the night and the ceiling was like right here.
Oh, wow.
It's like woke up and the ceiling was like right here. And I didn't understand what was happening. And I looked back down at my body and slammed back into it and screamed.
Oh,
just woke up the whole house. And I'm really lucky. My dad just came in and said, oh, okay, well, you got really comfy in your sleep and you left your body, and there's always a string that keeps you attached. And like, it's okay if you find yourself wandering in the middle of the night outside of your body. Just think about being in your body or look back at it if you can see it, and that'll bring you back. Like, he knew what happened and what to say. Like, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. You know?
And I think that's the way to handle it. He didn't tell you it didn't happen, and he didn't put fear about it into you. He just said, no, this happens. Yeah.
Calm, matter of fact, this is what this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have regular OBEs, and can you do it at will, or is it just something that happens?
So I can't do it at will anymore, but I bet if I practiced, I could probably get back there. I don't know if I want to be leaving. I came here to be in this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was little, I left a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I did a lot of exploring. I have a friend who, what is that other podcast? I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's older. It's been around for a long time, and they talk about some weird stuff. And he heard something on this other podcast, and it was instructions on how to basically give yourself the experiences when you're falling asleep and you get sleep paralysis. Like that's like your first step into leaving your body is like causing that to happen. And he explained how, like, I guess when you go to sleep, you don't itch the itches. Like, you stay completely still and allow yourself to relax without responding to all those little pings and pangs that make you want to move. And he's not somebody who naturally was born with these muscles being, you know, extra developed or anything, these sensitivity things. I mean, he just developed it by practicing. He said it took him maybe 9 months, and then he could lucid dream like that every single night. He said he had to stop because he wasn't getting any sleep.
Oh, wow.
He got really, really good at it just by practicing, which is really cool.
So there was a time where you did it at will.
When I was younger.
Yeah, at will. Interesting.
Like elementary school. I think most little kids are like closer to not being in bodies. So I think it's just easier when we're younger. We have less weighing us down.
Yeah, I think so. I think the amount of stories we get where kids are just more tuned in to this stuff, you know, I think they just haven't been shut down so much yet.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. For sure.
So interesting. Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
Yes, when I lived in that house with all the cabinets.
Interesting. Did you
the very, very active house when I would
entities, or were you just paralyzed?
Just paralyzed, and I could feel them though. I could feel them. It was when I would fall asleep on that bed in the room with the TV, like on the master bedroom. I fell asleep up there. If I was home alone, you had to be alone in the house for it to happen. And the homeowner said the same thing. She said if she fell asleep in that room specifically when nobody else was home, she would also have really intense sleep paralysis.
Wow.
And I had it once at my mom's house in my late teens. She had 5 cats. And when I pulled myself out of the sleep paralysis, because I did pull myself out of it, like I ripped my eyes open. If I heard you know how sometimes it hears sounds like rushing falls? You know, it was really loud, sounded like rushing falls. And I could there was like a visual that I was getting with it. And I literally took my hands and ripped my eyes open. Like, that's how I pulled myself out of it. And all of her cats were in a semicircle around me on the bed, just staring at me.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was really creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy, but it's so cool. Well, that's the other thing. They people all the time say, oh yeah, my cat watches stuff walk through my house all the time. You know, sometimes reacting, just watching it. Sometimes they're, you know, cut their hackles up. But they say cats and dogs, they just, you know, they'll tune in on this stuff sometimes.
Well, and if you have multiple animals, sometimes you watch them watch the same thing that you can't see.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So if we can get back to the Bigfoot, because that is my special interest in this.
Yeah, for sure.
This stuff. I was thinking that, you were saying that you saw a Bigfoot. You said you saw a Bigfoot, and then you didn't particularly develop this interest in it. For me, it went my mom woke me up when I was 8 years old to show me a UFO, and I saw a UFO, and I really didn't develop an interest in it at that time. I was just like, oh, it was cool to see as an 8-year-old kid. Like it was awesome, but I didn't become obsessed with UFOs. I was always a Bigfoot guy, even as a kid. I just loved Bigfoot for some reason.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we like what we like.
Yeah. Sometimes even if you see something, it doesn't generate that sort of obsessive spark in you. I've been a bad host in as much as getting details about this. I'm so fascinated by the story and everything that leads up to it and the rest. I want to talk about, and get as much details about the actual creature as we can.
Yeah.
So, was there anything unusual about the face or the eyes?
Okay, so it was standing up not too far away from the vehicle, headlights on it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of glare. You know what I mean? It wasn't, the best lighting per se, but it was looking at us. Look, we were looking at it. It was looking at us. Even though it felt like a wild animal, like I said, it was but we're wild. We're wild animals. So it, it felt like I was looking at a person, even though it was a wild animal. As far as the eyes, if they felt more human than I would have anticipated. And that was the creepiest part about the experience, because it gives you that uncanny valley sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And did it have a human-like face?
A bit. You more than I would have expected, I feel like. Yeah. Yeah.
Descriptions are all over the book, from it looked like a giant monkey to it looked like a gorilla to it looked like a caveman. And you get these everywhere in between, which is part of the mystery of this creature, which
it's sort of hard to describe because it's not like anything else. And you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about Sumer, and I'm thinking about that. What is the name of that original myth? The oldest story in the world. Gilgamesh. Yeah. And the wild man. What was he? Yeah.
There are wild man stories in every culture everywhere. Yeah.
That's the oldest story that we have. And that's a huge character in that story.
For sure.
Yeah.
Could you tell, was there any color to the hair?
I mean, yeah, it was brown, but not with the headlights reflecting. You know what I mean? It's hard to say, but it was brown for sure. And I could see her skin, and it was darker than mine. I'm olive. I'm Mediterranean, so darker than mine, but not dark.
So you could actually see the skin kind of through the hair
on her chest.
Oh, yeah. On her chest. Okay.
Yeah, because it was sparser there. It was sparser on her chest and belly, no hair.
Right.
But just you could see some skin. The headlights were straight on her.
Right.
Yeah. So and also on her face.
Did you get a look at the hands at all?
That wasn't the focus of my attention. This was also a long time ago.
Right. Of course.
Over 30 years ago. You know what I mean? So,
Often people, I've noticed in Bigfoot accounts, often people will focus on one aspect. And sometimes it is the hands, and they can't tell you much about the face, or sometimes it's something else, some aspect of the body they'll focus on. It's very interesting, and it might be purely natural. I mean, you're seeing something so unusual and shocking.
Yeah. I wonder. I tried. Everybody's so busy these days, and most of my friends have families. I tried to get one of my friends on the phone to ask her what she remembered. So maybe I can do some digging with the girls I was with and talk to you about it next time.
That would be very interesting, because
to see what they focused on or what they remember.
It would be very interesting, because my favorite Bigfoot encounter that I've ever heard, because I think it says so much about the mystery and the phenomenon, is a guy that was on the show. His name was Gage, and he saw it with two friends when he was 10 years old. And he saw a big white-haired creature that stepped down out of this fallen tree. And he said it was like a very protective thing that was warning. He got the feeling it was warning them not to go any further into the woods. This was in, I think, Washington State. He said, maybe there was a mountain lion back that trail, or maybe there was something else that could have hurt them, And he got this it was scary because it's a big, hairy thing,
Yeah.
But he got a overall sort of a positive feeling from it. But he had a friend, and interestingly, he said this friend had a really rough home life. And he had, he had two friends with him, but the one friend had a really rough home life. And he said that this guy just had it rough growing up, had a real rough thing. But he contacted him as he got older, and he didn't even think of it as a Bigfoot. They called it the Beast when they were kids. They didn't, they weren't into Bigfoot. Yeah. But he got into Bigfoot as he got older, and he found this guy, and he contacted him. He's like, hey, do you remember, the Beast? And he's like, oh my gosh, I absolutely remember that. It was terrifying. That thing was solid black, and it stepped out of the tree, and it was going to kill us. So they both agree there was a creature.
How interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what my friend's memories of this are.
Exactly. Yeah. And the third kid saw nothing. Whew. He found the third kid, and the third kid said, I didn't see anything. You guys started running, and I ran with you. Yeah.
Oh, is it really like only those who have eyes that can see,
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? But it would be very, very interesting, if you did track him down. If you do, please let me know.
I mean, I'm in regular contact with one. I want to go visit her soon, so
okay.
I'm going to do some research.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have a lot of stories I would like to probe, so maybe I can ask you back sometime, and we can get into some more if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I'm into it.
But before I let you go, you get the question that I ask everyone. On the morning of April 18th, 1961, Joe Simonton saw a silver disc on his farm. He went out, investigated, and stepped aboard the craft. There he encountered 3 dark-skinned humanoids who handed him an empty jug. Joe filled it with water and brought it back for them. In return, they gave him some pancakes. Adrian, would you eat the pancakes?
Are they gluten-free?
We don't know at this point. I mean, we know now, but, at the point you're handed the pancakes, you don't know. Do you have a gluten allergy? Is there?
I do.
Oh, okay. So there is a food allergy.
Very dependent on that.
Assuming gluten wasn't an issue, would you eat the pancakes?
Probably. Mm-hmm. Probably. Yeah. What is your answer on that?
My answer keeps changing. And originally I was like, yeah, why not? And then I was like, no, because I'm a big one for folklore. And I really think the one way we have to deal with this stuff is these rules that have been passed down through folklore for ages. And I think our ancestors knew what they were talking about. And things don't become tradition without reason. The tales get expanded, and, it's whispering down the lane. So an 8-foot tall thing becomes 20 foot and, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that the essence is there. And the rules for fairies is you don't always want to eat what they give you necessarily. It really depends. So I've moved from yes to a hard no to a I don't know to one of my favorites is one of my guests said, oh, I would thank them and invite them back to my place for pancakes. That seems like a good in between kind of state. You're still being thankful and helpful. It's going to depend on the day for me, honestly, and the feeling. Sometimes I guess
maybe it would depend on the vibe.
Yeah.
Since I am so sensitive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I would have to understand what it felt like when they were offering it to me.
Yeah, you got to listen to your gut. Yeah. So the fellow Joe Simonton, he ate one. He said it was very bland.
Okay.
They ended up analyzing it. It's very normal pancake ingredients, but no salt. So that's why it was bland. There was no salt in the mix. And I think the Air Force kept one. So there's one of them is still around somewhere. But
wild.
Yeah, but Joe, he did eat one. So, and he was with us afterwards, so he didn't get carted off to the land of fairy or anything like that.
But he was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about customs and traveling, between humans, mm-hmm. You're supposed to, eat food when it's offered to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Adrian, thank you so much for sharing your stories. They're wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And please come back.
Okay, thank you.
We're not going to do a curiosity this week, but I do have someone I'd like to thank. I'd like to thank Amy for sending me a birthday present, which was very nice. A really neat owl card and a bunch of ceramic crow skulls and little ceramic coins and things to leave as gifts. Really, really cool. And I will, but I'm keeping one of those crow skulls for myself because they're just really, really neat. So thank you. It's very nice. Also sent a little framed sort of orange peel piece of artwork that's really, really neat and sort of a tribute to what's going on with our Big Philip experiment and Otto. If you know, you know. Patrons know what I'm talking about. So that was really, really neat. So thank you once again, Amy. It's a very, very nice birthday present. Thank you. And one more announcement. Albatwitch Day has moved locations again. Now, I know some people are upset about how many moves there are, but all of these moves have put it within a mile or two of the original location anyway.
From the new location, you can see the old location.
Right. So it's been moved once again. It's across the river from Columbia in Wrightsville. They're sort of like sister towns. They're connected by a bridge, by the bridge. Maybe a mile away, less than a mile away as the crow flies. But driving, it might be a mile.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how long the bridge is, but it's really just the length of the bridge we're talking about. This is the only difference. It's on the other side of the bridge in the same location, right along the water.
So the location at the church, apparently, even though it's not currently being used, it's still run by the church. Apparently, the parishioners got word of what kind of festival it was, and they said they didn't like it. I don't know. So they had to move it from the church location again. But now it's in Wrightsville. It's on the York County side of the river. Look, there's just as many Albatwitch sightings in York County as there are in Lancaster County.
And this still benefits the Columbia Historic Preservation Society, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
So we'll still be benefiting Columbia, and I still strongly urge everyone to patronize the businesses in both Wrightsville and Columbia that day.
Exactly.
And
there's
plenty to do around
You're
there.
right there.
Yeah, it's just... I know there's a long-standing thing with York and Lancaster County. Like, it doesn't have to be medieval England. We don't have to have the War of the Roses.
Yeah, it's like people, like the idea of crossing the river is like, oh my gosh, it's like the world ends. No, it's a mile away.
Yeah. Either way, if you're from York, you can go to Lancaster County. And if you're from Lancaster, you can come to York. It's okay. We're going to be okay. We're basically the same thing.
Yeah. My feeling was when it couldn't be in Columbia, and apparently that decision was made long before, from what I read. I don't know. But from what I read, it seems like the people who make these decisions decided that the festival can't be in Columbia this year anyway. So it's at Riverfront Park in Wrightsville. This is a good place for it.
I mean, that was one of the things I was kind of upset about is I really liked being near the river for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll get to be by the river.
Right by the river again.
We'll just stare at the area. You can stare at Chickies Rock now. Previously, you just stared over towards York. Now you can stare at Columbia the whole time.
My feeling was if it couldn't be in Columbia, it should be in Wrightsville.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy that it is now. So they're saying that this is the new permanent home, like going forward. So we'll see what happens. But I encourage everyone, don't change your plans. If you are planning to come, it's just a mile away. It's not.
For some people, it'll be closer.
Yeah,
Like you could walk.
Some people are trying to make a big deal out of this. I don't see what the big deal is. We still get to have Albatwitch Day, and it
still benefits Columbia.
It's a mile away,
and it's just a mile.
Anyway, Albatwitch Day will be in Wrightsville, Pennsylvania this year. Excited about that. It's a little bit closer for us, and hey, like I said. It's right across the river, and there are just as many Albatwitch sightings on this side of the river as there are on the other side of the river. So it makes sense either way. If it goes back to Columbia someday, that's great too.
Yeah,
I don't have anything. I love Columbia. Don't have anything against Columbia. I am just for the festival, right? Mm-hmm. I want Albatwitch Day to continue, and I like Albatwitch Day, and let's have fun. So let's do it.
If you're adventurous, you can kayak from one side of the river to the other and go from the old location to the new.
Go back and forth if you like. Yeah.
You can ferry us across.
For sure. So it's still October 11th. Come on out and see us if you can. Hopefully we'll have new t-shirts and maybe hoodies by the time it's getting close time-wise, but we'll see. I think we will. Otherwise, we'll have our usual fare there. We still have plenty of the other t-shirt designs and prints and books and so forth. And I will be speaking this year, although I haven't decided when I'm speaking on yet. Something paranormally. I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be a good day. It'll be a good day, and I'm excited for it. So Albatwitch Day is October 11th in Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, right across the river from Columbia. All right, that's it for this week. We'll be back soon with more Strange Familiars. Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, including my 2 new albums, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. Strange Familiars is on Facebook, facebook.com/Strange Familiars, and we have the Strange Familiars Gathering group there as well. We are on Instagram at Strange Familiars, one word. Please follow us there. For Strange Familiars merch, go to strangefamiliars.com/merch. For everything else, links to everything we do, go to strangefamiliars.com.
Shall I say is called?